I reject your hypotheses. Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies, and I have finally watched the latest Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's been months since it's released, but it's I can't watch it um because I didn't have time, so I have to wait until it's released in like friggin' Blu-ray or DVD so that I can somehow indirectly watch the movie without going to theaters because I'm a cheater. Anyway, back to the main topic here. Quentin Tarantino is one of the most famous directors of all times and also one of the most beloved directors of film students across the world. He started off his filmography with very violent, gruesome, but exhilarating and exciting, energetic, explosive classics like Reservoir Dogs and, of course, the amazing Pulp Fiction, very iconic. And we also have the even more violent and extreme Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2 featuring Uma Thurman and Lucy Liu. And in this movie we have Maya Hawke, the daughter of Uma Thurman, and oh my gosh. And of course, QT has fun with the history of World War II on the movie Inglourious Bastards, as well as some other pretty cool crime-related movies, Death Proof and Jackie Brown. And of course, he toys around with the American history with racism on the movie Django Unchained, which I have done a pretty positive review on. I don't think it's the greatest movie of all times, but I still think it's pretty great. You know, it's a great movie, really fun. And then we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Apparently his ninth film, even though it's very much not his ninth film. Um, but he calls it his ninth film, and he will be making a 10th and final one. So this is the second last one. So this movie is about an actor in the 60s named Rick Dalton, who is played by Leonardo DiCaprio very brilliantly, and his stuntman and friend, Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, two of the most iconic actors in the world. And of course, they have to agree to this movie because it's freaking QT who's directing it. And we also have Margot Robbie playing Sharon Tate, who is actually a person in real life brutally murdered by the Manson family. Anyway, so this movie is polarizing. It's dividing. It's controversial, and there are pros and cons. So I'm gonna talk about the cons first, so I can leave the best stuffs at the back at the end of the video. So the biggest complaint that people have about this movie is that it is slow. It is the most patience testing and indulgent movie that Tarantino had ever put out. And to me, it is not a huge problem because I have seen more boring movies that are also by good directors before, and I know that they're good. So to me, it isn't a huge problem, but certainly this movie isn't as enjoyable as like the more exciting, adrenaline pumping, Kill Bill, Pulp Fiction movies. And then we have the fact that a lot of the actors and actresses in this movie are pretty underutilized. This movie has a gigantic cast, okay? Gigantic. Of course, we have Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, two of the most iconic and famous faces on Earth. And their acting is fantastic, and their characters are super well written. It is enjoyable to see them on screen. But then we have a bunch of other people. We have Margot Robbie playing Sharon Tate, and before I went into this movie, I thought, you know, it would be cool and kind of funny if Roman Polanski is in the movie. And sure, Roman Polanski is in the movie. Some Polish guy plays him. Um, and we have Al Pacino's character, who's in like one scene in the movie plus one shot, two shots. But that's basically it. He doesn't really do anything. we have Kurt Russell in the movie, who also has two scenes, and basically does nothing but yell at Cliff Booth for playing around. And on the first scene, no, actually on the second scene that Kurt Russell shows up, um, he sort of yells at Brad Pitt's character for having a fight with Bruce Lee. Yes, Bruce Lee is also in this movie for some reason, and he's played by this guy called Mike Mo, who actually whose Cantonese English accent isn't really all that accurate. Uh, you know, they don't pronounce the R's. Anyway, Bruce Lee looks like a total friggin' idiot in this movie, and I don't really have a problem with it. I don't think it ruins Hong Kong's image or anything. It's actually kind of funny. And then we have Damian Lewis's character, who has like 5 lines in the movie in one scene. And we also have a bunch of people like Sydney Sweeney, who's in Handmaid's Tale season 2, and then later on Euphoria. She has like 2 scenes in the movie, and in the second scene, she stares out of a window and says like 5 simple lines. We have Maya Hawke in the movie, daughter of Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke. She's in like 5 shots in the movie, like towards the end. And spoiler alert, she was playing one of the people, one of the hippies in the Manson family. And before we see the Manson family killing people, she just up and leaves because she wants no part of this. And we have Bruce Dern in the movie, who's also in one scene. Tim Roth apparently has a scene, but it's deleted. Dakota Fanning is in like one scene in the movie. Apparently somebody plays Burt Reynolds in this movie, but I can't really tell. Rest in peace, by the way. He's a totally cool actor. And we also have Margaret Qualley in the movie, who probably has more screen time than Margot Robbie, and definitely has more lines than Margot Robbie. But then again, she doesn't really do much. Yeah. Another thing about this movie that kind of stands out to me is that it has a lot of feet, and it's just crazy how QT casts all these attractive people to play hippies and like people in the Manson family. Like, why? Where did he get all these people? Where did they all come from? Oh yeah, speaking of the Manson family, Charles Manson actually shows up in this movie for like 20 seconds and does nothing. So there's that. And okay, so I'm gonna split this movie into 3 acts. The first act and the third acts are really entertaining, and then we have the second act in the middle, which is like kind of slow and patience testing. Not a lot of people will enjoy it. I don't think it's very enjoyable, but I don't feel bored by it either. Basically, for the second act, it is one day at work with Rick Dalton, sort of playing a role in like a pilot for a TV show, and we do see some, struggles in him acting like, oh, I don't act enough. Why am I still drinking? There's even a scene where he throws a temper tantrum, and it's freaking awesome, really well acted. But generally speaking, the second act certainly isn't as memorable as the first and third acts. The first act isn't really all that eventful either. But it's not bad at all. It's pretty enjoyable actually. And then we have the third act, which feels like it came out of a totally different movie. It's violent, it's exhilarating, it's graphic, it's fun, it's wild, it's fiery. The structure of the movie is kind of weird, but I'm okay with it. And there are a lot of slow moments in the movie, which I'm totally fine with because, I've seen a fair share of slow movies recently. So, I'm not bothered by the slowness. For some scenes, the editing is a little choppy, and there are these time jumps that feel a little unnatural. And for most parts of the movie, there is little to no tension. It's a very chill, very laid back movie. I don't think that's a huge problem, but it may be a problem for some viewers. And I guess another awkward thing about the movie is the narration. So apparently there's a narrator in this movie. There's a narrator in the movie. So the narrator only shows up in one of the scenes in the first act and in the very beginning of the third act. So in the first act, while Rick Dalton was speaking to Al Pacino, and Rick was like, "Oh yeah, I can't drive now because Cliff is now my driver," and then suddenly the frame freezes, and this narrator suddenly shows up saying, "That's a big fucking lie," and then later on in the third act, the narrator shows up again, says a lot of words, explains a lot of things, and then disappears for the rest of the movie. Kind of awkward. I don't know what's the narration for. If there's a narrator, I wish he would be more consistent throughout the whole movie. Another weird thing about the movie is that there are a lot of moments in the movie where we see Rick Dalton in the middle of shooting another movie or another TV show, and we don't see it like there's a camera here and Rick Dalton and a bunch of co-workers and actors just acting. We see it like we're actually watching the movie or the TV show, but instead of having this old school 60s movie slash TV feel to it, it's filmed in the modern way, like the rest of the scenes in the movie. And that's a little confusing. We don't know if we're watching it like we are watching the TV show or the movie that Rick is in, or are we watching him acting and him being filmed as an actor? It's kind of weird, kind of confusing. But that's basically all my complaints. Now let's talk about the good things. First of all, very obviously, the acting is fantabulous. Um, and the lines in this movie, the dialogue, they're really well written. Um, there's one line at the end of the movie that's really funny, but I can't really say it because it's a spoiler. Um, uh, I like the concept of the movie in that both Cliff and Rick were also going towards the end of their career, and they're starting to be worried about how their lives are going to move on. And that actually is also a really thought provoking, very thought provoking, because everybody who's famous in the world right now has to somehow fade away in the spotlight eventually. So, that's sad, but it's true. The soundtrack is amazing. The songs on this in this movie, they're amazingly chosen. Of course, it's Quentin Tarantino, who has a fantastic taste in music. The looks of the movie is pretty awesome. I like the costume designing, the props, they're believable. I also really like the ending of the movie. Again, I don't want to spoil much, but apparently this movie sort of takes place in an alternate reality. Um, yeah, I mean, going into the movie, you should know about Sharon Tate's, um, her life and death. If you have no idea who Sharon Tate is, before watching the movie, maybe you'll think that her character is completely pointless, and that is because Sharon Tate's character really doesn't say much or do much in the movie. Literally, the first three scenes that features Sharon Tate's character, she's just dancing whimsically. But yeah. Yeah, I also like how meta this movie is. This movie has a lot of movie making in it. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid movie when it comes to quality, the writing, acting, dialogue. But then again, there are a few parts in the movie that feel kind of forgettable, that doesn't really have a payoff or a point to it. There are characters in the movie that could be utterly cut from the script, or from the final cut of the movie, and it would be fine. Nothing would be changed. And yeah, this movie still succeeds at being funny, kind of entertaining at times. The characters are well written, and it's pretty semi enjoyable movie overall. So it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's not. It's definitely not the best QT movie. Definitely not the worst either. I guess it's in the bottom half, but it's really not that bad. So yeah, I am saying Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is it's a nice try. It's a nice try. Yeah, it's a movie worth watching at the same time, but it's a nice try as well. And I am kind of feeling mm, I personally, it's a strong seven, a decent to strong seven. But given the quality of the movie, given the production quality and the acting and the dialogue, the screenplay, I could boost it up to maybe like a light eight. So it's somewhere in between a strong seven to a light eight. So I'm gonna say strong seven personally. Subjectively, my enjoyment for the movie is strong seven, but it could be a light eight. Who knows? So yeah. Have you watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, hate if you hate it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. Also, I'll try my best to see The Lighthouse or 1917, Ford versus Ferrari, maybe Knives Out. I don't think I can watch Jojo Rabbit or Marriage Story or Uncut Gems or Waves, but I'll try. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.